We would like to acknowledge that the episodes in this series are produced on the traditional unceded lands of the Coast Salish peoples, which includes the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. We thank them for allowing us to be their guests.
Great. So, and we're highlighting the dog.
Is it okay if she stays?
That's all right. It's all about the dog. Yeah. Yeah. And it's all about the dog, and it's all about the weather, you know?
Oh, I know. I can't wait till at some point in time we get some sun again.
I know.
I moved to Burnaby in 2000 with my sister, obviously in 2000. And one of the things I loved about it was just having that ability to leave the city and feel like I was getting away a little bit.
Yeah.
And I always find that the trees have that effect on me here.
Yeah.
Is that when I'm outside and just gardening or whatever, it just allows me to just calm a little bit.
Chill. You're in a really nice, your place and it is quite nice because you've got this sort of green belt beside you, which is great.
Yeah. It's really quite lovely. And I like plants, and the hydrangeas are actually kind of the flower of my island. I'm actually from the Azores. I was born in San Miguel. I came here when I was about 2 years old, so I was raised here. But it's an interesting thing because I've always felt like in Canada I'm Portuguese and in Portugal I'm Canadian.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting feeling that way. But I'm the youngest of 8 kids, so big family. That's that growing up in a big family here in Canada is especially 8. I mean, I think I've seen I've known people that have 5 brothers and sisters, and that's a big
8
family.
is almost 2 handfuls.
Yeah, and 4 boys, 4 girls.
Oh,
so
yeah,
like
right.
It was
so evenly matched.
Yeah, and so and so they're a huge influence on me growing up. And my father passed away when I was 7 too, so I really feel like I was raised by all of them too.
Yeah.
And so it's been, it's been great here. I'm really close still with my brothers and sisters. We're still a very close family. Interestingly enough, my family moved here twice. So my grandparents, my mother's parents, moved here in the 60s. And my mom was already married, so she stayed. But she had 3 siblings that came with her grandparents, or with my grandparents here. And then my father's father got sick, and so my mom and dad came here with 5 children. I had a brother who was born here,
right,
and then they went back to Portugal with 6 children. And then after my grandparents in Portugal passed away, my dog really loves eating plants. They came back here in 77,
right,
and we've been back here ever since.
Right.
So, but yeah, this has been, for me, hydrangeas are one of those things that just always bring me back to Portugal.
So when did you get into theater, and when did you sort of get the bug?
High school, actually.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I have a brother who is he's a professor at Langara. But he was into science, and I was too, actually. I think for most of my high school career I was thinking I was going to become a scientist.
Right.
But my sister had said to me, you need something. When I went into high school, she said, you need something that is going to be a bit more relaxed, a bit more fun, as opposed to all these academic courses. And so she recommended theater. And then I did, high school theater. We did my first production ever was of Frankenstein. And I remember was cast as the monster.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then the person that played
Title role right at the beginning.
And the person that was playing Dr. Victor Frankenstein dropped out. And so my theater teacher said, well, I guess we're going to have to cancel the play. And I thought, well, no. Give someone else the monster. I'll play Dr. Victor Frankenstein.
Okay.
And so we did, and that was my first play ever, and I loved it. I had a great time.
Wow.
And then that teacher left the school, and I had this... I didn't get along with the next theater teacher that we had very well. We had differing views, and that happens sometimes where someone new comes in. I feel like theater, especially with theater training, I think you need some sort of safety, a feeling of safety in order to explore things that are unsafe, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I don't think I really felt that. And so I had a friend of mine who said she was going to audition for this program at Arts Umbrella, and I said, sure, I'll do that too. I'll audition. And so I got in. And so I auditioned for this program at Arts Umbrella, which is now the program that I teach.
Right.
Which is really quite cool, and I quite love. But that's where, like, Sarah Rogers was my instructor.
Right.
And she really, I think,
the most enthusiastic person ever.
She's so youthful even now, right? Whereas I'm feeling old, she's still so youthful. And we're still friends.
Yeah.
I appreciate everything that she did for me, but she really taught me how to be an artist as opposed to simply, let's do some plays and act, which is, kind of in theater or at school, in high school, a lot of improv and things like that. Whereas, with Arts Umbrella and specifically with Sarah, she really got deep into the artistry of what we do.
Right. And
so that really stayed with me. And that's when I decided, rather than going into science, I took a year off of high school and thought I'm going to try doing as much theater as I possibly can, just to see whether or not this is even something I want to pursue.
Wow.
If it's something that I really like doing, because sometimes you do something in high school, you go, this sounds really cool, but at the end, it's not really what it is. Hi, honey, how you doing?
And how did your folks feel about that? Did you get support? And did they think, oh, that's neat, he's going to be an actor?
You know what's interesting? My mom was really nervous. I think my mom was nervous about this. It was also such a different feel from what anybody in my family was doing. It's also not something that, not to speak from all immigrants, but there's an expectation, that we are coming here to do something different, to do something better, and to gain, create that better life for us, so to speak.
Right.
And a lot of that, I think, also equates to get a good job, buy a house. This is what you're supposed to do, so to speak. And this was something that is unknown. And this is something can you make a living out of this? Is this something that you can do as a profession for your life? And I remember, I know that my uncle came and spoke with me about is this really something you want to do? Maybe become an accountant, do acting on the side, so to speak. And little did I know, I think my mom was the one that asked him to speak with me.
Sure. Makes sense.
But that year off, I managed to do a show at the Fire Hall Theater as an understudy for in The Stone Angel, where I worked with like Marilyn Nori, I worked with all the Sarah Rogers was in it too, like all these amazing actors in that show. And then I also did some community theater. Sarah gave me the opportunity to assistant direct with her. I had all this chance to explore what this meant.
Right.
And I said, yeah, that's what I'm going to do then. So that's when I auditioned for Studio 58. I went to Studio 58.
Right.
And then, from there, of course, it's that program is, I think, really quite an amazing program. And make those connections. Get a chance to work with, other professionals, professional designers, directors, and then even those connections outside. I don't think I'd have it any other way. I couldn't see myself now.
Right. Yes.
Going, being a science professor, or
you could play one.
Science.
You could play one on TV.
Play one on TV, and I have. I'm not a doctor. I play one on TV. But that was really where it was, and it was interesting because later on in life, as I said, my father passed away when I was quite young, and so I didn't necessarily know him that well. He died when I was 7 years old, and he was sick for a while, so I think, a lot of what I know of him was stories, stories from his friends, my mom, my brothers and sisters, and at one point in time, I was having a conversation with my mom, and I said, I guess if Dad was still alive, this probably wouldn't be what I'd be doing. And that's when she said to me, actually, you are doing what he always wanted to do, but his parents never let him do it.
Right.
And I found that really interesting. And then things just made sense, because my father was one of those people that would, I literally have a guitar upstairs because my father bought this guitar and brought it home and said, somebody learn to play this. Because he
It's
loved,
too quiet around here.
he loved to sing. He, when he died, unbeknownst to my mom, he had actually called the Royal Conservatory of Music to put my sister Marta and I into piano lessons. And so it was something that he had that joy for.
Right.
He had that love of theater, of music, of performing. But I didn't really know that same way.
Yeah.
And so it really ended up being this feeling for me, a validation for me, actually, that, I wasn't the only one that wanted to do this.
Yeah.
And I found out later also from my mom, too, that I had an uncle who has also now since passed away. He was a priest. And when my mom went to speak with him about, my son has to be an actor, what do we do? And he was the one that said, let him do it.
Yeah.
There is a sense as an immigrant family coming here, trying to make that new life. I mean, I know my entire family we cleaned houses, we cleaned office buildings. My sister actually had the contract to clean the waterfront station. And this is
Right,
well before
yeah.
there was a SkyTrain station. It was the
Wow.
C-bus there, and I remember going there with my sister.
Big place
Oh
to
yeah,
clean,
yeah. But that was her job, and I remember even back then she was saying that in school they were discussing jobs, and somebody said immigrants are taking our jobs. My sister looked at him and just said, I clean toilets for a living. You want that job? Go ahead, take it.
Yeah.
But that's my whole
I'll
family.
pay you.
Yeah, my whole family. That's what they did.
Yeah.
And my sisters, helped out with and my brothers too. But they did this with my family and cleaned office buildings, and then they had their own jobs, and all that money went to the family in order to pay for everything. And
Sure.
my sister also waited tables, and her wages went to the family, but she got to keep her tips. And that's
Right.
All that comes in there. But I think when we talk about that idea of that better life, I think it includes this. It includes that.
Oh, yeah.
Pursuit of artistic ventures, or that joy in that way too.
Yeah.
And so I consider myself, very privileged in that way, because my brothers and sisters, they did all those things so that I could do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they sacrificed a lot in that way.
Yeah.
When I went to Arts Umbrella, little did I know at that point in time when I did that audition that, it was a program they had to pay for, and all of a sudden I get in and my family's going, okay.
Is it
we have to
expensive?
pay for it.
Was it at the time?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing, a lot of people don't know this about Arts Umbrella, but there's a lot of bursary programs. So
Yes,
there's
right.
a lot of an ability for people to apply for bursaries to help make that happen. We don't really want money to be what hinders that pursuit.
No, of course not.
So, but for my brothers and sisters and my family, when that came out, my brothers and sisters were like, well, okay, we'll pay for that.
That's great.
We'll make that happen.
That's
for you."
fantastic. That's
So
fantastic.
I really appreciate that. Now as a man in my, I guess now technically mid to late 40s, let's just say, in that way, I really appreciate my brothers and sisters for believing in me in that way.
Right.
That they felt that, okay, yeah, this is something we want to do for him.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have been able to do it without them in that sense too.
Yeah, bravo.
And there's
Bravo.
always been that support with my family. I'm a bit of a gear pig. I love gadgets. I just think they're cool. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
And so because I was much like my father like that too, I would go, well, if I can afford this mandolin, let's buy this mandolin because this is really cool. Let's try that. And so I started buying like recording equipment and because I was the one that ended up keeping that guitar. I still have it.
Right.
My brother played a little bit too, and he actually was the one that gave it to me. So, I played guitar, I started writing some music, and this is all on my own. And then I wanted to have that ability to record it. And then it got to a point where I started spending money on this, and I thought, probably spending more money than I really should on this than I really
Gear
have.
guilt.
Yeah. And so I decided to start, when friends needed help with something, I thought, sure, I'll give you a hand with that. And so I started to do some sound design work.
Right.
But none of that actually was at Studio 58.
Yeah.
Studio has a great program. I love that holistic view of everyone needing to understand the backstage and the technical elements of it too. That's something that I think is really important. It's an important part. And it was interesting because I never got to do lights and I never got to do sound at Studio 58.
Wow.
Where normally, people would get to do some of that.
Yeah.
But I started, as I say, friends would say, well, we've got a show and we need to do some sound. Can you help us out? And since I had that ability, I said sure, and started doing sound designs for different shows here and there. And then somehow, Katrina Dunn from Touchstone Theatre would, ask me to do some sound designs for her, and John or Wright, and all of a sudden I was doing sound for these amazing theater companies, Art on the Beach, and Dean Paul Gibson. I did, it was 2002. They were doing Henry V, which Christopher Gaze directed, and Twelfth Night, which Dean directed, and Dean asked me to do sound for that.
Yeah.
And so Christopher said, yeah, can you do sound for my show as well? And so had that great opportunity to work with these amazing directors. Sound is one of those things that is so important for theater.
Ironically, your mic fell off.
Oh.
But no, not again. But it's the curse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's so important because it also helps. We have a new stagecraft program happening at Arts Umbrella, and in that we've had people ask, so what does that mean? What is stagecraft? And sound is part of that, but I feel like the stagecraft side of things is creating that world. Mm-hmm. It's helping to create the world with which people are going to experience this play. And so sound has that ability, even if there's a bare stage, to create this space for people. I had years ago a show that I did for Green Thumb Theatre where, one of the characters was really, in essence, a baby. But you never really saw the baby. Right. But this baby is crying, and so I had to create this child on stage, back with sound effects CDs. But then you're listening to these sounds and going, well, how does this baby cry make me feel? How is this connecting? Where is this coming from? And in essence, this sound of this baby cry. Creates this illusion of having this child on stage, right there. And, the interesting thing after that is that literally I was listening, or watching TV shows, and I'd hear this baby cry and go, that's track 7. I could start to really, I know that CD, I know that sound effect, I know exactly which one that is.
And you're in the movies. I saw you with Sandra Bullock the other night.
Yeah.
I
really love being on doing film and TV. I find it a little bit more, a little easier to put into my schedule than
Sure.
a theater piece.
Oh yeah.
That said, there's still always that love of theater. Theaters where
Nothing
it started
compares
from,
to that.
like it's a whole other bird, and I love doing it. I actually, when I graduated from Studio 58, I was lucky enough to get an agent pretty quick. And I've been with my agent ever since. So over 24 years with the same agent, and I really appreciate her and everyone there. But what happened was when my son was born. My son was born 3 months early.
Okay.
And so that really shifted my perspective a little bit on what can I do, and I actually took some time away from all of it actually for a couple of years, simply because I wanted to make sure that I was here for my wife, was here for my son, and so I stopped doing theater, and eventually about a year and a half afterwards I started going, I really do need to perform, I need to get back at it. And I remember actually, I think I was talking with Colleen Winton and saying, you know what, we're at our agency party, and she's saying, I think I'm ready to come back. And the next day, I get a call from my agent saying, shouldn't you have told that to me? How did you know? And it's one of the reasons why I absolutely love her. And I said, I'm ready to go back into it. And
she squealed on you.
Oh, well, Lord love her, right? I mean, that's the thing about it. It's great, and I really appreciate that.
Paul,
he's
ready to come back in.
So it was one of those things where I just went, I'm going to focus on the film side of things.
Yeah.
And my job at Arts Umbrella, in that time I became artistic director, and Suzanne and I were building that program together, and then Andy Toth came into it as well, and he was part of that team to build what we were doing. And now we also have Erica Babbins as part of that team as well. Erica is also a musical theater. She was a choreographer as well. She's brilliant. She's absolutely wonderful. And of course, we have a huge staff there of instructors.
And dance is a big
dance
part
is
of
big,
Arts Umbrella.
big at Arts Umbrella too. But luckily Arts Umbrella has seen and understood. I mean, they've always had that thought. We want working artists. And it's interesting because for me, in doing what we do in theater and film, it is a collaborative art form. It's not just my performance. It's the lighting, the sound, the whole thing, everything. That's what goes into it. And so, if I were a painter, I might be able to, if the muse comes to me at 3 o'clock in the morning and I have the ability to do that, I can do it at 3 o'clock in the morning. But as an actor, I can't do that. No, you're part of a bigger machine. Exactly. So in order to be able to still do those things, I've had the ability to, and the privilege to be able to either take some time off to do it, or change my schedule ever so slightly to make things happen, and they've been really supportive of that. So it's been, and I finally looked the age that I've been going out for. I've always looked old. I've always joked that I've been 40 since I was 14. I've always played older characters, and it's like Bill Dow. There's an age difference between us, but he and I have been going up for a lot of the same positions, like for the past 20 years. Thinking, you've got me going for a 50-year-old, and I'm 30. How is there's no way that
look, this is not bad.
No,
this is not bad. You've got that's a long career.
Yes.
That's okay. Yeah.
And I've enjoyed it. I feel like I've been really privileged with the people that I've worked with, and both in theater and in film. It's something that looking back on my life when I was first in high school doing Frankenstein, playing Dr. Victor Frankenstein, who knew that this would be something that would still be part of my life,
That's great.
But I'm really glad I am, I'm really happy that it is, because it's also, how I met my wife.
Sure.
It's made my life better.
You took a turn in your life.
Yeah.
That was maybe, that was kind of interesting, but unanticipated kind of turn in your life, and it really does lead you a long, long way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happened to me.
Well, it's interesting, yesterday I went to see Hamilton. The play itself, beautiful. And when you talk about somebody, writing, something for themselves, Lin-Manuel Miranda has done an amazing job with that play. The music is amazing. The performances were really top notch.
Right.
but I look at the set, and I look at the lights, and I look at the sound, and all those things have come together so beautifully to put this world together. And I actually had bought a ticket for my sister, who's my oldest sister, who is, we've stayed very close. We lived together for many years when I was younger in high school, and theater started becoming something that I was really interested in. She and I bought season tickets to the Vancouver Playhouse.
Right.
And we were talking about this last night because, I saw all these amazing actors on that stage. Wendy Knoll.
Sure, yeah.
Alan Gray. I think John Moffat as well. Like, these really amazing actors. And it was inspirational for me as a young actor. Yeah. I think that's the thing, to be able to watch these amazing actors that are Vancouver actors.
It's a good theater.
Yeah.
The theater space itself is a nice space. Mm-hmm. You can be on that stage and pretty much see everybody, see their face.
Yeah.
Look up in the balcony and you see people.
Yeah.
If your eyes are good.
Yeah. and all the seats are good seats.
The seats are good seats. Yeah. It's cool. Cool.
There's no sightline issues, and then having that ability.
It's
to be
about the
on
right
that stage.
size too.
Yeah.
So
having that ability to work on that stage too, something that I always dreamed of doing.
And having the ability to sneak into the Queen E through the back door and see what's going on at the Queen E if you've got a little break.
Yeah.
And catch James Brown, which I did one night, which was really a lot of fun. There's all these things that go on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
People don't realize the actors are going up and say, Joni Mitchell's right next door. Let's go. Sneak through the fire escape.
My first job was actually as a dishwasher. I was 11 years old. Back when I was 11-year-old, you get a job. And I was a dishwasher for this Greek restaurant downtown, which was right up the street. It was right on Georgia.
Okay.
So right up the street from the Queen Elizabeth and the Vancouver Playhouse. And the owner of that restaurant was a huge theater fan. It's okay, love. It's okay. He was a huge theater fan. And I remember Cats.
Oh, yeah, right? Yeah.
I feel like Cats toured here on a regular basis.
Like every 8 weeks.
It was always here. And I remember that he was such a fan that he used to take ice cream at intermission to the actors.
Wow.
And so I remember being like 11, 12 years old, working at this restaurant, and he'd go, come on, and he and I would take this ice cream down to the Queen Elizabeth Theater and go backstage and be giving ice cream to all the actors.
Wow.
And it was one of those interesting things that I don't think I ever realized that was actually a significant memory for me. Mm-hmm. I hadn't realized that was part of that experience of theater, because at that point in time I'd never done any theater.
Right.
But being backstage, being near those dressing rooms and seeing everyone dressed in their costumes and watching them
and the makeup.
Yeah. It was really quite the experience.
Sure.
And I'm really thankful for that. Yeah. For Fanis to have allowed me to do that.
That's really great. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So. I always like to approach a character with that idea of, put myself in their shoes, and that's what we do, and that sense of empathy too, of what's happening for this person. What is this person's story? Mm-hmm. I think it allows me to also, I think, just as a human being, try to be a bit more empathetic to everybody else too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think right now we could use a lot more of that.
Oh yeah, we could. This is now if you've got some empathy left in your kit, this is the time to pull it out.
Yeah.
This is kind of ugly times.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think there's so much. I mean, I think the other side of it too is, it's interesting because I think, again, my family, most of my family will say, well, we're not really artistic, but then, look at my brother who works with wood, and he's made this beautiful mantle. Like, well, that's art, my friend. What you're doing there is art.
Yeah.
Another brother also has started to take up painting because he has this wall in his carport that he always went. When I bought this place, he said to himself, I want to paint a mural on that. And so he decided to learn how to paint so that he could paint a mural in there. And I just thought, again, it's that idea of, I think we as humans need to create. We need to create some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Be it a garden
it sort of doesn't matter what it is.
Exactly.
Just do it.
Exactly. And that's the other side of it too. When I did the BFG, getting on that suit every day with the little balls and doing the motion capture side of that was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was interesting because I think that was the most like theater I think anything I've done in film has been.
Yeah, sure.
Because there was a lot of imagination in the sense of there isn't a set here where it's a big open space.
It's like a rehearsal. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
And to be able to go, I'm supposed to pick something up? Sure.
I'll pick this green thing up.
I'm going to imagine that this is here and I'm going to do it and someone else is going to put that there. I think it's we were able to even see because we had this TV on the side. So we had a rough idea of what things were going to look like. It wasn't looking realistic. It looked very cartoonish, but every movement we could see how that movement was going to translate onto the screen. And I loved doing that. It was such an interesting experience. Yeah. And I feel like that technology has just gotten so much better now too.
Yeah.
That I think exploring that side of things is also
I'd
so
like
important.
to do more of that. That all kind of came into maturity as I was walking out the back door a little bit, and I just was so entranced with the possibilities of it.
I remember, again, being young when I first started seeing theater and going to see Les Miserables at the Queen Elizabeth Theater, and that moment when Javert jumps off, and they had done it so that he jumps off, but he stayed on the ground, but the thing goes up behind him, the bridge goes up behind him, and I was in awe of that moment because I just thought, well, how brilliant is that? That idea that you can change the perspective in that way. Yeah. And I think all this new technology, the virtual reality and 3D projections, and even just projections themselves. Sometimes when a theater company has the ability to incorporate that, adds so much. Yeah. And these are all things that I think when I was first learning. When I was first learning. In studying theater, even sound wasn't really there wasn't a whole lot of emphasis put on sound.
I'm still entranced with that, and I've always been wanting to do convert plays or film plays as in some fashion when they were happening or after they were happening, but turn them, capture the performances because I got so frustrated when you would do a play and you could work on it and work on it and work on it, and then you play it for 6,000 people and then it was gone. Yeah. It was just completely gone, and that just that just offends. I'm a very parsimonious guy. I hold on to $1,
Yeah.
And it just offends me that as an investment that it's just gone with that, So.
But there's something experiential for me about theater.
Oh yeah. I know. I get it. Yeah, I get it. I understand. It's like going to see Donovan or Joni Mitchell or somebody. It's that moment of communion between you and there's wonderful when you're doing it, and there's that wonderful elastic between you and the people that are in the room.
Well, and it's interesting too because I do think because of COVID, over the past few years, we've had to change a little bit about how do we present, what are we considering theater, and I find that a really interesting conversation right now.
Yeah.
But I do find, in the idea of having to film things now for that experience,
Yeah.
having that experience in your own living room watching TV, it is a bit of a... I was talking with Suzanne about this last night because, for instance, that production of Hamilton that you can see actually on Disney Plus,
Which I don't get.
yeah, but you could see that production. You can see Lin-Manuel Miranda playing Hamilton. I really enjoyed it, but then last night going to see it live, it was a whole other story.
Sure.
And not to say that one actor was better than the other or anything along those lines, but that being there was really a whole other story for me as an audience member, to get the story, to understand the story. And it's been interesting because we've had to do that. We had to pivot a little bit at Arts Umbrella too when we were presenting with our kids, and we took a play, and I actually did it two ways. We filmed it. All our students had 2 monologues, and one of the monologue was going to be filmed. The other monologue was going to be done live, but over Zoom.
Okay.
So that the kids could have the experience of doing something live, but also have an understanding of the film industry as well, and what is the difference between acting for film and acting for theater. And even though we were doing this live, there's still a camera, so you still have to be aware of the audience and all that. And it was a really interesting experience as a director to do that with these students. But we all still missed having that live audience, and I'm not sure how. I think there are better brains out there for it that are coming up that I think will have a better understanding of how to amalgamate that a little bit better and how to make that a better experience. But I still feel like we're not there yet with that experience of watching theater from your home.
Well, they're two different things. Just like putting on a CD of Tchaikovsky or going to the symphony.
Yeah.
But and the thing that I think about when I think about doing it, the part that I think would be hardest would be comedy.
Yeah.
Because comedy you really need that push-pull thing with the audience, and you need to hear them titter, and you need to hear the laugh coming, and you need it, to wait for it when it happens, and you really do need to feel each other, when you're doing that kind of task.
Yeah.
So I think that would be hard. Drama, straight up drama or something like that, I can see that working easier as a more, the truth wouldn't be destroyed as much by recording it. But,
I actually think it'd be really interesting to play more, and I think we have now the tools to do that a little bit more with being able to produce a piece of theater and be able to stream it, and we've all over the past little while. I mean, it's interesting because I was speaking with a tech friend of mine who has been doing tech for churches, actually, because while churches couldn't come together, they all had to do it from home. So these churches invested big time in this equipment to be able to stream
sermons and whatnot.
Interesting enough, not a lot of them knew how to. So that was a whole other thing as well. But I think even theaters have started to invest in that ability to be able to film it. And I think we're learning more how to make that happen. Because, the lovely thing for me about film is we can say, this is what I want you to look at.
Yeah, you can point the eye, you can focus for them.
Yeah, and in theater, that ability, and I think that's what I so appreciate as an audience member, is that ability to look at the guy in the back. What's going on there too? That's interesting. But I think the audience experience is going to be, there's so many really interesting theater companies that have started to do some different take on, what is the audience experience?
Edge up to it.
What's happening here? And some of it's VR, and some of it's, again, questioning what is actual theater. Can you have theater one-on-one? And can theater simply be two people,
Two people talking,
sitting there talking? Like there's some amazing.
My Dinner with Andre.
Yeah, it's like such wonderful things that I think, my hope is that audiences still continue to see the value in being there live and not just, watching it on the TV. You know what I mean? And being there. Laboratory theater troupe, which creates their original work, and unfortunately this is the last year that we're doing that. But they did an amazing play that they created from scratch. They called Artificial Purpose, which is all about AI actually, which was really quite an amazing piece. And I said to all the young writers, I'd love to turn this into a film. Like I would love to look at this and go, how do you tell this story? But we have this film program as well, and that's one of the things we're trying to instill with those film students is, again, how do you create your own work in that way as well? Start to think of that. Having grown up reading theater scripts. And then turning into watching or reading film scripts. And the difference between the two. That difference of we see this, we have a shot of a squirrel climbing up the tree and all of a sudden fall, whatever the case may be, that setting the mood and being really specific about what is the story we're trying to tell, what is the feeling that we're trying to give, and every time I'm on set, it's harder now with COVID, but I've always, if I'm not on set acting, I'm usually in that tent with the director looking at how are they setting this up? What does this shot look like? Yeah,
if you can sneak into Video Village, it's really educational.
Yeah.
And because they talk, they sort of think they're alone.
Yeah.
And they talk. They say, like it's cheese. Or you can feel them. You can see,
I love it. I love watching it.
Yeah.
And just because you can really see how they're setting everything up for the story. And so I've really enjoyed that side of it, and it's gotten me thinking a little bit more about I would love to play in that way.
I hope that happens for you, because I think you've got all the you've got the heart, you've got the desire, you've got the tools, you're interested.
Yeah.
It's not just a career make money thing for you. It's a real artistic
it's a love.
Impulse.
Yeah.
So I really do hope that works out for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm also in awe.
I think you'd be good at it too. That's one of the reasons why I'm saying it.
Thank you.
I'm
in awe of the talent, and I think that's the thing. Again, it's one of those things for me. It's why I love what we do. That collaborative art form. That collaboration of everyone has their own thing to contribute, and without it, it would be completely different. And I really feel that's so it's so important. So on set the other day, and I'm looking at the sets themselves that they created, and I'm thinking, this is amazing. I'm here, and I literally thought I just wanted to go outside, so I went onto the patio and went, of course I'm not outside, this is just but there was a sense of me going through that doorway, this may be outside, and realizing I'm not outside. And I know this inherently, I know I'm in a studio, but things looked so good in that way, it becomes so believable. I had to take a picture. One would think it was outside in Chicago or everything. It was really quite amazing. And I really have an appreciation for all that work that everyone does, and the detail of again the mirror, or not the mirrors, the windows in there, and can we move that just the way they set it up, that there's the ability to move that window and angle it ever so slightly so that it's not seen on camera. We're not seeing the reflections and things like that. And it's stuff that, you know, I think everyone who is not in the industry, they don't even think about it. That's not part of it. You know, it never enters their mind that they have to look at all that work that's going on.
Oh no, there's a ton of work. There's a ton of work. The idea, and I mean, just the camera department alone in the last, say, 10 to 15 years has just been revolutionized. Since digital stuff came in. I mean, I remember I did this, I think the first movie I did that had a bunch of digital stuff in it might have been Reefer Madness the musical, right? Which was a great gig. It was a really, really great gig with some wonderful people. And they had this, and it was a digital thing, and I was talking to the camera guy, and he said, no, it looks too good. We have to make it slightly blurry because it just looks too sharp. You know, and it doesn't look like, you know, we really need to make it look like an old movie. You know, we have to degrade it so it looks like an old movie. You know, stuff like that, which was a real revelation to me. And I thought, whoa.
And I think that's actually really what's exciting for me is what, you know, how much people can actually take those stories and be able to do that on their own. And have that ability to.
Yes, and we keep coming back to this. It is ultimately about the story. You know, and then for the creators of the story, it's like, well, what is that story? You know, there's a search there too, which is sort of a, you know, there's the search for the story, and there's the implementation of the story. You know, which is a, you know, it's a double kind of whammy at least there. You know. So. You know, you were talking so much about your work at Arts Umbrella and how much you really, really enjoyed it and how fulfilling it was. And now you've resigned as the main man down there. So just tell us all about that.
Sure. I mean, the reality is Arts Umbrella's been part of my life for a really long time. I started there when I was a kid. Well, I say kid, I was a teenager, but that's still a kid. And it's been a huge part of my life. It's been, you know, where I met my wife. It's what steered me forward into becoming an actor in the first place, or giving me that courage and inspiration to do that. I've met amazing people, and I still truly believe in what we do. I think really what started to happen for me is, as I continued to explore my own artistic endeavors and my own artistic career as an actor, and want to continue to look at engaging more with theater, because, you know, it's I don't get a chance to do that as much as I used to, and to be able to really dive into the film work and dive into that work, that I'm really needing something more for me in that sense.
It's a very courageous move. You know, most actors, most theater people are always crying for a long gig or a steady job, and you've had that. You know, and to step away from it is, you know, that's pretty bold.
And you know what? I think the thing for me is I felt like it was time. You know, we're coming. I'd like to say we're coming out of COVID. We're still in it. And I think with changes happening at Arts Umbrella, with a new building, with I think there's a need for a fresh start in that way as we come out of there. And I think to myself, you know, it's worth it to have someone else now doing that. I want to show my son that going for what you want and you know, going for your passion, you know, is worth it.
When you're big in Europe, I just want to come and be your driver. Okay?